Fractions, lesson 4, the pink pages. And let's get started. So we're going to compare fractions today on a number line. We've been talking about equivalent fractions and even putting them in order from greatest to least and what they look like. A lot of times with shapes and then by looking at the actual numbers in the numerator and the denominator. We've looked at number lines, but we're going to spend more time on that today. So here's a number line that shows thirds. 1/3 is closer to 0 than 2/3, as you can see by the arrows. When comparing two fractions, the fraction closest to 0 on a number line is always the smallest. That's another way to be able to tell if they are equivalent or not, or to put them in order from greatest to least, or least to greatest, or if you're asked to do greater than or less than, you can always draw a number line. So we're going to practice that. So we would say 1/3 is less than 2/3. So let's try another one. This one we're going to do fourths. So we have 1/2. Remember that 1/2 is the same as 2/4, and 1/2 is closer to 0 than 3/4. So we're going to say when comparing two fractions, the fraction closest to 0 on a number line is always the smallest. So 1/2 is less than 3/4. Here's a number line with 6. We have 0, 1/6, 2/6, 3/6. This would be half. 4/6, 5/6, and 6/6. This would be a third. This would be 2/3. And we're going to compare another one. So this one's going to show the thirds. Remember what I told you? And there's the half, and there's the 2/3 that I went through before, actually drawn out for you. Remember, fractions that are on the same point and are the same distance from 0 on a number line are equivalent. We haven't really talked about those quite as much except for the 1/2 and the 2/4. So this is a great way to see equivalent fractions as well without drawing shapes. So we would say 2/6 is equal to 1/3, because they bottom in the same place. 3/6 is equal to 1/2. 4/6 is equal to 2/3. And we could even do 6/6 is equal to 1, because we know when a fraction has a numerator and a denominator with the same numbers, that is the same as a whole number 1. So you should have your packet. This is a short lesson today. Let's have your packet out and let's find the number line that looks like this with fourths on it. And we're going to use the number line to compare 3/4 and 1/2. So we have 1/2, and we think about where that is in relationship to 0, and 3/4 and where it is in relationship to 0. And we're going to write our sentence, fill it in with our fractions. So this says less than, so I know that 1/2 is less than 3/4. I would write 1/2 here, 3/4 here. This number line has 8s on it, and we're going to compare 3/8 and 5/8. So you're going to look at your number line. There's 3/8 compared to 0. 5/8 compared to 0. Right? Obviously, 3/8 is less than 5/8. All right, use the number line and equivalent fractions to fill in the box with greater than, less than, or equal to. So the first one says 2/8 and 1/4. So you look at your number line, and you notice they're in the same spot, so we're going to write equal to in the box. 2/2 and 7/8. So I have 7/8 here, and 2/2 are 1 here. So I would say 2/2 is greater than 7/8. Greater than. And one more here. 5/8. There's your 5/8 on your number line. 3/4 on your number line. So you know this one's smaller. 5/8 is less than 3/4. Number lines can be either horizontal or vertical. So in a vertical number line, the 0 is found at the bottom, while fractions and whole numbers get larger as they move upward. So here's a vertical one. There's the 0, and we're doing 1/4. It's just a different way to write them. If you don't like the way these look or they're confusing to you, then I would write them the other way. Numbers on a number line represent a specific distance from 0, which we know. It's just written a different way. The distance between whole numbers represents one whole, which you already knew. The number line has been partitioned into 4 parts, and 3/4 represents 3 of those parts, and 1 would represent all of them. 2, 3, there we go. Another way to compare fractions is to fold paper strips to represent each one. We've done a little bit with this before. Here's 2/3 and 3/4. So let's fold them or partition them. They're going to partition them, not fold them. And you can always take strips of paper and compare them if you want to do it that way. I think that's one of the most time-consuming ways. Then fold back and see that the portion that is not represented in a given fraction. So you can definitely see here that 3/4 is bigger than 2/3 because it sticks out more. When comparing 2/3 and 3/4, it is reasonable to think that 2/3 is 1/3 away from the whole and 3/4 is 1/4 away from the whole. And therefore 3/4 is closer to the whole, so it would be a larger portion. Again, it's another way to figure out greater than, less than, or equivalence. It is probably the most time-consuming way and kind of waste paper, if you ask me. So let's practice that last part that we've learned. We have a couple little mini lessons today. So we're going to use our vertical number line. So find that on your paper. I kind of think it's over on the side of one of the pages. And they're going to fill it in with 6 here. There we go. All right, so we're going to compare 5/6 and 3/6, and we're going to write it as a greater than or less than. So remember, we're with the 0, and we're just going up the number line. Here's 3/6. Come to that one first. Then you come to 5/6. So the number that fraction you come to first is going to be the smallest one because it's closer to 0. So I would write, this is my greater than sign, so I would write 5/6 is greater than 3/6. And there's those fraction strips. If you fold one strip back on each one, which one would be the longest, A or B? And you're going to write that on the line. Notice that A is divided into 4 parts. This B is divided into 8 parts. So if I fold this part back and I fold this part back, this one's going to end here and this one's going to end here. Which one would be the longest? Write that on the line. And that is it for today.